My name is Gloria Whitmore, and I am 74 years old. I have lived long enough to bury my husband, work 3 jobs to keep my only daughter in school, and watch her grow into a woman far braver, bolder and, truth be told, colder than I ever was. On the morning of her wedding, I should have been fastening her veil, wiping away her nervous tears, and whispering the blessing every mother saves for that moment. But instead, I was at home, my hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug, staring at an invitation I had never been meant to use. Inside St. Ignatius Church, every seat was filled. Pearls glistened, violins sang, and whispers floated through the air like smoke. But there was one seat, front row, second pew, that remained empty. Mine. And the reason wasn't because I was sick or late. It was because my own daughter told me, "Mom, don't come." The words had cut deeper than any knife. But what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that beneath the hem of her $1,000 gown lay a secret I had buried in silence. A secret that, once revealed, could shatter not just her wedding, but her very soul. And as the priest opened his mouth to begin the ceremony, that secret was about to surface. It was 3 weeks before the wedding when Abigail came home from a meeting with her future in-laws. Her blazer was still buttoned, her lipstick freshly set, her steps sharp against the old hardwood floor. I was at the stove, wearing the same flowered apron I'd worn for 20 years. The kitchen smelled of coffee and cinnamon, the smells that had carried her through childhood mornings. But she didn't smile. She didn't even sit down. She just stood in the doorway, her jaw tight, her eyes fixed on the floor, as if the words she carried were too heavy to meet my face.
"Mom," she said, "I need to ask you something. For the wedding."
"Anything, my girl," I answered, turning off the stove. The silence that followed stretched long enough for the kettle to hiss. Then she said it, quick and cold, like ripping a bandage. "Don't come." I thought I'd misheard. I laughed nervously. "What do you mean, don't come? To the rehearsal?" She shook her head. "No, to the wedding." The coffee boiled over. My heart did too. I wanted to ask why, but some part of me already knew. And what she said next, what she confessed with trembling lips, would cut me deeper than any stranger ever could. Her voice cracked at first, but then it grew steadier, almost rehearsed. "It's not that I don't love you, Mom, but Michael's family. They notice things. The clothes, the way you talk, the way you—" She paused, searching for words that wouldn't sound cruel, but cruelty has a way of slipping through no matter how soft you say it. "You just don't fit in." The words hung in the air, heavier than the steam from the pot. "Don't fit in," I repeated, tasting them like ash. My hands trembled as I wiped the counter with a rag already clean. "Abigail, I carried you through winters with no heat. I scrubbed hospital floors so you could wear nice shoes to school. But she cut me off. "That's exactly it. They'll see it, Mom. They'll see your hands, your clothes, your everything. And they'll pity me. They'll think I come from nothing. I can't start a new life with that shadow over me." I wanted to scream, to slam my fist against the table and remind her I was her shadow, the one that had covered her since birth so the storms of life didn't break her. But instead, I stood frozen, the rag still in my hand. "Please, Mom," she whispered, her eyes pleading but not soft. "If you love me, you'll understand. Stay home." And then she turned, heels clicking against the floor, leaving me in a silence so sharp it could cut skin. That night, when the house went dark, I sat alone at the kitchen table. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain was too deep for tears. Instead, I opened the old manila folder I had kept hidden for years. Inside lay the one thing I had left from my mother. A deed to a small piece of land in rural Pennsylvania. And as I ran my fingers over the faded ink, an idea as desperate as it was dangerous took root in my heart. I didn't sleep that night. I lit a single candle on the kitchen table, the flame bending and flickering like my thoughts. The deed sat in front of me, yellowed at the edges, my mother's name written in strong cursive beside mine. That little patch of Pennsylvania soil was the last thread connecting me to her. I remembered being a girl, running through tall grass while she hung laundry on the line. I remembered her hands, chapped, cracked, but always gentle, as she braided my hair. That land wasn't just dirt. It was memory. It was blood. It was proof that we had ever belonged somewhere. And yet, staring at my daughter's words, etched into my heart, "Don't come. Don't fit in," I knew what I had to do. If she didn't want me present at the altar, then at least my sacrifice could be. The flowers, the music, the dress, the banquet. If I couldn't stand beside her in person, I would stand in silence through every detail of her wedding. At dawn, I tucked the deed into the manila folder and pressed it to my chest. My decision was final. I would sell the land. But as I slipped it back under my bed, I noticed something else. An older envelope I had never dared to open. My late husband Walter's handwriting covered the front. And for the first time in years, I wondered if that letter held the truth I had spent decades avoiding. 3 days later, before the sun rose, I boarded a Greyhound bus. No suitcase, just my old handbag, and the folder pressed against my ribs like it was part of my body. The ride was long, the windows streaked with rain, the kind of weather that makes you question every choice you've ever made. Around me, people slept with their mouths open, or whispered into phones, or stared blankly at the blur of trees and billboards. But I sat rigid, my mind turning back to the kitchen, to Abigail's eyes when she told me I didn't belong. By noon, the bus hissed to a stop in rural Pennsylvania. The air smelled of wet soil and pine, sharper than the city air I was used to.
I took a taxi out to the land. The driver, a young man with a baseball cap, squinted at the overgrown field and asked, "Anyone actually live here?"
"My mother did," I said quietly, stepping out before he could ask more. I touched the earth with my fingers, damp and cold. The old fence was rusted, the house long gone, but I could still see it in my mind. The orange tree, the water basin, the porch where my mother once sang hymns at dusk. That night, I met with Mr. Thompson, a lawyer with silver hair and kind eyes, who warned me I'd get far less than it was worth.
"They'll bargain hard. They won't be fair."
"I don't care," I told him. "I just need cash, quickly." And 3 days later, I signed my name, my hand trembling so much he had to steady the paper. The land was gone. My mother's memory sold. When they handed me the envelope full of cash, it felt heavier than any gold. And in that moment, I realized my daughter would walk down an aisle paved with my sacrifice. But as I left the office, I saw a shadow across the street, a tall figure, watching. And though I couldn't see his face, I knew someone had discovered my secret. Michael had always admired Gloria. Where his own family was polished and stiff, she was warm, steady, and real. She never asked for anything, never demanded attention, and yet her presence filled a room with quiet strength. But in the weeks leading up to the wedding, he noticed something strange. Payments, receipts, balances cleared in cash. When he asked Abigail how they could afford the dress from New York, the florist, the banquet hall, all in such a short time, her answers were clipped, vague.
"My father left something. Don't worry about it."
One evening, at the florist's shop, he spotted a manila folder half tucked under the counter. The florist, flustered, handed it back to Gloria, whispering, "God bless you, Ma'am. Few mothers would do what you're doing." Michael froze.
"Is your mom coming to the wedding?" "No, it's better this way. Does she know that?"
"She understands. If she loves me, she'll respect my decision."
Michael said nothing more. But as he lay awake beside his fiancée, staring at the ceiling, something inside him began to break. Because now he knew there was a secret sitting heavy in that house. And if he was right, it wasn't Abigail paying for her perfect wedding. It was Gloria. And Michael had to decide if silence was love or betrayal. The De La Garza estate sat on rolling hills outside Maryland, its white columns glowing in the fading light. Abigail smoothed her dress in the car mirror, rehearsing smiles, rehearsing answers. Michael sat beside her, silent, his knuckles tight against the steering wheel. Inside, crystal chandeliers dripped light over a table long enough to seat 20.
And who will walk you down the aisle?
Her uncle, of course. More proper, more dignified, given the circumstances.
What circumstances?
We can't have that woman parading down the aisle. Imagine the photographs, imagine the guests.
No, I don't want her to.
That woman is her mother.
For the good of all, Robert will do it.
Two nights after the dinner, Michael drove across town alone. He didn't tell Abigail where he was going. He didn't want her polished answers, her half smiles. He wanted the truth. The nursing home sat quiet under a pale moon, its windows glowing like watchful eyes. Michael, is Abigail all right?
She's fine. I just needed to see you. I need to ask you something, and I need you not to lie. Did you sell your mother's land for the wedding?
I did what mothers do. I gave her what she wanted.
Does Abigail know what you gave up?
No, and she doesn't need to. The gift is hers, not the burden. Promise me you won't tell her, Michael. Let her shine. Let her be happy. And for the first time, Michael wondered, on the day of the wedding, who would he truly be standing beside, his bride or her mother's ghost? Saturday morning. Street Ignatius Church gleamed under the sun, white hydrangeas lining every pew, tulle curtains fluttering lightly from the morning breeze. The guests arrived in a cascade of designer dresses and tailored suits, murmuring softly about how beautiful the day looked. But one pew remained empty. Front row, second seat. Gloria Whitmore, the woman who had sacrificed everything for this day, was absent. Abigail glided down the aisle in her imported lace gown, every eye on her, every step measured. Her smile was flawless, her head high, but inside there was a hollow echo where warmth and gratitude should have been. Michael watched her, silent, feeling the weight of the secret pressing in his chest. He glanced toward the empty pew, then at Gloria's absence in Abigail's rehearsed eyes. When the priest began the ceremony, Michael's heart pounded. He couldn't stay silent any longer. He leaned toward the microphone and spoke in a voice steady but filled with truth.
Before we continue, there is something everyone should know.
Abigail froze. The congregation murmured. The air grew dense, charged.
This wedding was not paid for by either of our families. It was paid for by someone forbidden to be here today, someone who sold the only thing she had left to make this day possible.
Silence. Each word landed like a hammer.
That woman is Gloria, my fiancé's mother. She sacrificed her inheritance, her memories, everything to give Abigail this day. And yet, she is not here because she was asked not to come.
Abigail's hands trembled. The bouquet slipped. The world shifted beneath her. For the first time, she saw her mother, not as a simple woman, not as someone who didn't fit in, but as a force of love, stronger than anything she had ever known. The church doors creaked, and there she was, Gloria, standing not with anger, not with reproach, but with that unwavering, quiet strength Abigail had always taken for granted. The hush in the church wasn't just for the revelation. It was for the love, the sacrifice, and the pain that had been invisible until this very moment. And as Abigail's knees threatened to buckle beneath the weight of her shame, Michael realized he was no longer just the groom. He was the guardian of a truth that could save a soul or destroy a wedding forever. Abigail stood frozen, her bouquet slipping from her trembling hands. The murmurs of the guests were like waves crashing over her, yet it was not their whispers that tore her apart. It was the realization of her own cruelty. Her mother had counted worn bills late into the night, boarded a bus before dawn, signed away the only land she had left, and paid for everything in silence. All so Abigail could have a wedding that matched the world she wanted to impress, not the mother who had given her everything. Tears welled up in Abigail's eyes, hot and blinding. She had spent years shaping herself to fit in, to please others, to hide the simplicity of the woman who had raised her. And in doing so, she had almost lost the only person who had ever truly loved her unconditionally. Gloria remained standing, composed, her hands folded calmly in front of her. No anger, no reproach. Only the weight of love that refused to let her daughter fall completely apart.
Mom! Abigail's voice was barely a whisper, cracking under the force of shame and grief. She took a step forward, then another, until she fell to her knees, sobbing openly, the crowd silent in stunned awe.
Michael moved to her side, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "She did it for you," he said softly. "All of this, every dollar, every sacrifice, it was her love."
Abigail looked up, and for the first time she truly saw Gloria. The calloused hands, the quiet eyes, the bravery that had never once asked for acknowledgement. And in that moment, she understood. Love is not always visible. Sometimes it lives in silence, in sacrifice, in the things we never notice until they almost disappear. But the question hung in the air. Could Abigail forgive herself? Could she reconcile the daughter she had become with the mother who had never left her, even when asked to stay away? The answer would come, but not yet. After the ceremony, Abigail didn't move. She stayed on her knees in the aisle, still gripping the fallen bouquet. Guests murmured quietly, unsure if they should approach, until Michael gently helped her to stand. Gloria stepped forward, her presence calm and steady. She didn't scold, she didn't cry. She simply held out her hands.
I don't know how to say it, Abigail whispered, her voice raw. I was ashamed. I thought you didn't belong in my life anymore.
Gloria smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carries decades of understanding. You thought wrong, Abigail. I belong wherever you do. Always. That never changed.
The words hit Abigail like sunlight through storm clouds. She reached for her mother's hands, feeling the roughness of years of labor, the warmth that had carried her through childhood.
I'm so sorry, Mom, she said, tears streaming, for everything, for asking you to stay away, for not seeing, for not appreciating.
Gloria squeezed her hands gently. Child, you're only human. I understand fear, pride, shame, but none of that ever changed my love for you.
And in that simple gesture, the holding of hands, the unspoken forgiveness, the first cracks of the wall between mother and daughter began to appear. Michael watched quietly, his heart swelling with admiration for Gloria and a newfound respect for the fragile beauty of forgiveness. He knew the real wedding was not about the flowers, the dress, or the hall. It was happening here, in the quiet, unspoken reunion of two souls who had loved fiercely, silently, against all odds. But the journey wasn't over. A shadow remained, the letter from Walter, hidden in the manila folder, untouched and waiting. And whatever truth lay within it could change everything once again. That night, after the guests had left and the echo of the wedding faded into the empty hallways, Gloria returned to her quiet kitchen. The manila folder sat under the table, waiting like a patient sentinel. Beside it lay the envelope with her late husband Walter's handwriting. She had avoided it for years, fearing what it might say, fearing the truths it might force her to face. With trembling hands, she broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper, written in Walter's firm, looping script. Gloria, if anything ever separates us from Abigail, know this. She is never alone. The land, the savings, the things I leave behind, use them not for yourself, but to protect her, to give her a life you believe she deserves. And if the day comes when she turns away from you, do not follow in anger. Let your love guide you silently, so she may find her way back. Gloria's hands shook as she read the words over and over. Her husband had foreseen this moment, the fear, the shame, the pain. He had written her a roadmap for love, a guide to saving their daughter even if their hearts were broken in the process. Tears streamed down her face, but not in despair. They were tears of clarity, of purpose, of courage renewed. She understood now that selling the land, paying for the wedding, remaining absent at the altar, it was all exactly what Walter had wanted. Every silent sacrifice, every tear uncried, had been part of a plan larger than grief or pride. And yet, there was one final test. Would Abigail, now confronted with the truth of her mother's love and sacrifice, be able to forgive herself? Would she allow her mother back into the life she had almost discarded in pursuit of perfection? Gloria folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. She had done what she could. Now, the rest belonged to Abigail. Outside, the night was quiet, but someone was still watching. The shadow that had lingered since the bus terminal, since the land sale. Michael. And he knew that soon all hidden truths would have to face the light. The stage was set. The final act was coming.